Yeah, you.
She sent us something, and then the next Sunday, her account. So she it's for return on her investments.
Okay, I'll take it.
Just watch the great.
Okay. You're good.
They don't make you read social media. It's an important one to watch.
Okay. I'm so terrible
It's
about
it's
replying
sobering. It's important.
to people.
I just found my trophy and loves the Henry's channel. I'm like, does she get it?
No.
I would recommend reading them together.
No.
Ready?
Tale is one that if I had time, I could see that.
All right, good evening, and welcome to tonight's Board of Education meeting. Call this meeting to order. We have a quorum. Everyone is here, so if you all will stand with me and begin a pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, well, again, thank you for being with us. Now turn it over to our superintendent, Kathy Moore, for brief comments.
Good evening. I'll start tonight by offering one final reminder about the January 30th deadline to apply for magnet and/or year-round schools. There's still time to schedule school tours prior to submitting your application, but it's down to crunch time. Our award-winning magnet programs offer unique educational opportunities in diverse school communities, so I encourage families to explore which options might be right for them. You can visit wcpss.net/magnet to learn more. If you prefer an in-person approach, our Office of Student Assignment is hosting a parent outreach session this Thursday from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at East Cary Middle School. Staff members will be available to help parents with magnet and year-round applications, as well as assist with address changes, pre-registration, and transfer requests. Translation services will be available for Spanish-speaking families. We are fortunate to offer an array of choices to Wake County families, and we are committed to making sure we offer our assistance to any who may need help navigating the application process. Congratulations to WCPSS Bus Inspector Mike Moriarty on placing third in a national bus inspection competition. School bus technicians and inspectors from 16 different states gathered in Cypress, Texas last month for the annual event. The competition included an extensive written exam and a timed hands-on inspection testing knowledge of all bus systems and components. Mr. Moriarty's strong performance amid stiff competition demonstrated clear mastery of his work. There is no more important job than ensuring that our 70,000-plus bus riders make it safely to and from school every day. Thanks to Mr. Moriarty and all our dedicated technicians and inspectors who approach their work with professionalism and attention to detail. Lastly tonight, let me add to the chorus of congratulations for Sherry Schleicher, who just marked 50 years as an educator. She started teaching in Richmond in January 1970 and worked there for 27 years. She has worked with us for 23 years, the last 13 of which she served proudly as the principal of Kingswood Montessori Magnet Elementary School. Her students and staff helped celebrate her Friday in grand style. Please take a look at this video recap.
back on 50 years in the educational profession. A lot of things have changed and times have moved forward, but the one thing that hasn't changed, in my opinion, is that the children are still passionate about learning and teachers are still passionate about teaching. I remember my first day on the job 50 years ago, and my knees felt like they would buckle under me because I realized that I had the lives of, at that time, class sizes were large, of 27 children right in the palm of my hand. And I have never lost that sense of awe and urgency about the teaching profession. This was such a lovely day at Kingswood, although every day is a lovely day at Kingswood. And as I think about being driven down the hall in my chariot and seeing all the faces of the children being so excited to celebrate my big day, I felt so incredibly lucky to have made it this long and to be in the place I am. Because every day I walk into classrooms and the children go, Miss Sherry's here. There's Miss Sherry. Did you know Miss Sherry is here? Where else can somebody like me walk into any room in the building and become a rock star? And so today was just an extension of the love and the joy I feel every day that I'm at Kingswood.
That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Superintendent Moore. Congratulations to Ms. Sherry. That sort of reminds me of, I was born in January of 1970, so I don't know if that reminds me of how young she is or how old I am. I don't know. But anyway, welcome you all to tonight's meeting, and whether you're here to celebrate some of our wonderful employees or you came to just watch us work, we appreciate you braving the frigid temperatures and wanting to be here this evening. And again, thank you for being here and welcome to our board meeting. I'll turn it over to our Vice Chair, Ms. Cash.
Well, spent this last week visiting some of my middle school principals because everybody's job is really hard, but I really do enjoy looking at what they do in their schools. But and of course, my highlight was going to the inaugural ball, which some of our other colleagues were there. Christine and Jim were there, and I was at Combs Elementary, and it's a fun night under Muriel Summers' direction. She's awesome, and everybody there. But the only downfall was I had to dance, which I didn't even know the dance. I didn't even look at the program, but it wouldn't have helped me because I think it was a tango. But oh yeah, is that what it was?
It was supposed to be a
Cha-cha. Oh, it was a cha-cha. Okay. My grandson should have asked you to dance because, so obviously I was not very good at that, but even if I knew what it was called, I wouldn't have done it. But I did follow his lead. He was doing pretty good on the lead, so it was a great night. That's it.
And don't believe it, Ms. Cash did a fabulous job with her very sweet grandson at that inaugural ball. That was a very fun event. I wanted to also just announce that the policy committee will not be meeting in January. Staff will come to us in February for our fuller meeting with some policies, both that are going to be migrated from the School Board Association as well as updated policies with some community input considered. And then also in the last 2 weeks, we were with Ms. Sherry at Kingswood Elementary with colleagues, Mr. Haggerty, Ms. Mahaffey, Ms. Scott, and myself were able to look at their composting processes, and it was just impressive to see these students composting and recycling and showing the sustainability that we can have in our child nutrition. They've done a great job there, and it was great to see that work in action. And Ms. Scott and I also were able to go to the TA meeting this last week and hear a presentation about vitiligo awareness. Very important to focus on just broadly keeping our students safe and free from bullying, as well as our educators safe and free from bullying in our schools. So I appreciate the TAs for inviting us and giving us that exposure. And finally, our county commissioners and our county staff and colleagues have been so supportive of looking broadly across our county. They sponsored Live Well Wake. It was the inaugural kickoff and design, and I encourage all school staff and my colleagues, when you get invited to go to Live Well Wake, let's work with the county. They're looking at homelessness, at mental health, and other risks in our community to make our community healthier and taking action instead of just coming together for community needs assessment, being very intentional about taking action to solve some of the problems that keep being identified through the community needs assessment that we have been doing over many years. So kudos to our colleagues over at the county.
Thank you. Yes, the inaugural ball was a lot of fun, always, as it comes. January the 28th is our next Board Advisory Council for District 5. We will be meeting at St. Augustine's University, hosted by the Leadership Academies. And Marius Pettiford and Paul Coe will be talking about social emotional learning in schools. I also think we'd be remiss if we did not acknowledge yesterday was Martin Luther King's birthday. Pleased to go to several events over the weekend. As many people have been noting of late, Martin Luther King, sometimes we have sanitized him with the celebration of his birthday. He was a very passionate advocate that was not always liked by society. We often talk about his dreams, but I'm struck by, and I don't have his exact quote, but it was something to the effect relating to education. He noted that integrating buses, integrating water fountains, integrating movie theaters, he said that's the easy work. He said wait till we start the work of actually providing equitable opportunity in schools. That's when we're really going to get the pushback, and that's the hard work that needs to be done. That's the work that we've been talking about today, both in the Budget Committee and in the work session. But that is where we have a lot of pushback. When we really start talking about investments that we need to make to truly create opportunity for all children, that's the hard work, and that's the work that we've got to be about to continue his legacy and to create a legacy for every child, not just here in Wake County, but across this great country and around the world. Thank you.
Thank you. On February 3rd, District 1 will be having their Board Advisory Council meeting at Zebulon Elementary School, and that meeting begins at 6 p.m. We've had a great showing of individuals from the community, parents, and principals coming to that, so I look forward to seeing everybody on February 3rd. Also, this past meeting regularly is an advocacy group called the K-12 Education Alliance of Eastern Wake. And this community group has been working with Wake Ed Partnership to bring Partners Read to several of our elementary schools in Eastern Wake. They have shown really strong success that's going to look different as we look at different reading assessments in the elementary schools. But a really great way to get involved. We have a lot of community advocacy groups that are supporting our schools in Eastern Wake. So if you're ever looking for volunteer opportunities, they have plenty of those. And another event that happened was the new principal at Knightdale High School of Collaborative Design was sort of discussing his first 6 months at the school and some really positive changes taking place at Knightdale High School, and a core group of parents who are just there always supporting their PTSA. They've got such strong supporters of the school. So lots of great things happening out in Eastern Wake. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll start from the inside. Mr. Fletcher.
Thank you. I had the privilege of attending the surprise celebration for Sherry Schleicher. They had her sequestered in the second-story room in a staff meeting with the IRT and the area assistant superintendent and some other people. She had no idea what was getting ready to happen, to the best of my knowledge and that of the people I talked to at the school. So it was really very special, and she had to have started when she was when she was 14 to be 50. I mean, I don't know. There's preservative going on there somewhere. But Sherry's provided great leadership to us, and she was asked, and Lloyd Gardner said, "I hope this doesn't mean she's retiring." And she said, "Why should I retire? I love what I do, and I do it well. So why should I retire?" And I agree. Thank you, Sherry, for all your years of service.
Ms. Matthews?
Dr. Martin mentioned some of the opportunities to honor the legacy of Dr. King, and one of the opportunities that he and Ms. Johnson-Hostler and myself were at was in Holly Springs at their breakfast that the Holly Springs Martin Luther King Committee puts on every year. And great programming, but a wonderful highlight was having two of our Holly Springs High School students there, Deja Johnson and Bree Scott from the high school, to sing and dance and share their talents with the community. And it just was a reflection of the work that we see in our schools and the importance of the arts and what that meant, because I think everyone in that crowd felt moved by those performances. Switching to outside, which is maybe not the best day to do it, but everykidoutdoors.gov allows each fourth grader to get a pass to go into our national parks and historic monuments and other sites. It's not just for the child, but it's for any children or adults that are also in the passenger vehicle with them. That's valid for all fourth graders until the 31st of August of 2020, at which the next day it will be for the then next class of fourth graders. But this is just an opportunity for a lot of our students and their families. If you're looking for something to do during track out or summer break, and you happen to have a fourth grader or one coming up, something that's available to all students nationwide, and that's everykidoutdoors.gov.
Integrity.
Thank you, Chairman Sutton. In deference to everyone we have here today, I'll cut my remarks short. The one thing I will note is that the legislature did go home without passing a state budget, now more than a year from when they went into session, and I'm just so sorry that so much of the financial burden for supporting our public schools falls on our local governments.
Thank you. Thank you for that. All right, moving into our agenda, I will love to entertain a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve our meeting agenda for this evening. All those in favor show by sign of aye. Any opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Agenda approved. We now have a couple of recognition items for this evening, starting with our Employee Excellence Award.
Good evening, Chairman Sutton, members of the board, and Superintendent Moore. It is my pleasure to bring to you this evening the January recipients of the Wake County Public Schools Employee Excellence Award. Awardees, when I call your name, please come to the front to receive your award from Ms. Moore and remain up front until all recipients have come forward. Patricia Phillips, School Secretary, Bridges Special Education Services. Ms. Phillips is the first person to greet students when you walk through the door at Bridges. She gives every student a big hug as they enter the building. She supports parents with everything they need as they call to speak with her on a regular basis. She exemplifies dedication and commitment to students and their families, and they know that they can trust and count on her. Lauren Lankford, Literacy Coach, Green Elementary School. Ms. Lankford is an outstanding servant leader. She provides effective and ceaseless support to our teachers and to our parents in a multitude of ways every single day. She is highly respected in our community for improving literacy instruction. When the term excellence is invoked, Ms. Lankford is most worthy example. Michael Stiefel, Special Assistant to the Central Area Superintendent, Area Superintendent's Office. While serving as the assistant to the Southwestern Superintendent's Office, Michael's service to the principals is unlike any other. He leads with a servant's heart and constantly says, "I'm here to serve." Our saying in the Southwestern area was, quote, "Everyone needs a Michael," and that is so true. Lancelot Achille, custodian at Wake Forest Middle School. Mr. Achille excels at his job as a custodian. He is an Army veteran who has decided to continue making an impact through his role as a custodian at Wake Forest Middle School. He maintains a smile on his face and always supports teachers, students, staff, and parents in the building. He takes pride in his work and is motivated by the fact he helps set the first impression of visitors in our building by maintaining a clean and sanitary school. Kim Rainish, cafeteria manager at Timber Drive Elementary School. Kim is a valuable manager, trainer, role model, and resource for her peers. She works hard to find creative ways to encourage healthy eating and proper nutrition. She knows all the staff, each student's names, and goes out of her way to make sure students know they are cared for and loved. Annually, she teaches fourth graders nutrition and student health. Melanie Faggard, coordinating teacher, special education services. Melanie is the glue that holds family and communications together. She is an exceptional professional who is dedicated to families who move into our district and need specialized services for their student. Melanie greets our families with a smile and is ready to serve. She collaborated to design a welcoming family room for parents and their children, equipped with community resource information and educational activities. Dana White, Administrative Assistant, Special Education Services. The dedicated and expertise possessed by Dana is the reason our three teams function effectively. She keeps the teams organized, structured, informed, and contributes to effectiveness. Dana speaks fluent Spanish and supports our teams by effectively communicating with families and community organizations. Gregory O'Brien, English teacher, Green Hope High School. Mr. O'Brien builds relationships and relates well with his students. He teaches in a variety of ways that keep students motivated and engaged. He works on goal setting and teaches relevant information that connects with the real world. Mr. O'Brien sponsors student government and promotes positive community outreach for children. Terry Nagel-Ham, Preschool Case Manager, Office of Early Learning, Preschool Service, Special Education. Terry has been employed since 2000 as the longest-serving preschool case manager. She works diligently to ensure that preschoolers begin their special education services with a well-developed IEP in place. Terry treats families and colleagues with respect, kindness, and compassion. She demonstrates perseverance, strong ethics, integrity, and a high level of professionalism. And our last award goes to a group of employees from Transportation Services. Lisa Pennywell, Senior Administrator, Teresa Williams, Senior Administrator, Christy Estes, Senior Administrator, Beverly Sanders, Bus Driver, Jesse Lynch, Bus Driver, and Jamina Mitchell, Senior Administrator. We recently had a great deal of work to do in order to be compliant with a new law related to NC-licensed pre-K classrooms. This team in transportation took the lead in this work and assisted their colleagues. They took a tremendous amount of their time to help and ensure that the process was efficient, doing so with professionalism and care for more than 200 individuals. They are true rock stars. Please give a round of applause to our January 2020 Employee Excellence Award recipients. Now, if you will please turn and face the Board of Education to be greeted by Chairman Sutton.
Thank you for that, and I heard you in your remarks mention that everybody needs a Michael in the Southwest. But I think not only does the Southwest need a Michael, but we all need a Patricia, a Lauren, a Michael, a Lancelot, a Kim, a Melanie, a Dana, a Gregory, a Terry, a Lisa, a Teresa, a Jamina, a Christy, a Beverly, and a Jesse. We need you all. Thank you so much for the work that you all do. You represent the best, some of the best, at what you do, and we appreciate your hard work, your commitment, your tireless hours, and clearly the day begins with each one of our students as they get on the bus, get picked up, as they walk into a clean building, as they walk into the cafeteria for a Pop-Tart, and then finally make their way over to the classroom and meet their teacher and their principal. And so clearly what you all represent is that everyone makes Wake County Public Schools and this district a part of the success of every student. And so again, thank you for all that you do, and we certainly support you here on this Board of Education. Thank you so much. I'll take just a minute to allow you all. Now, you're more than welcome to stay and join us and continue to watch us work. If you would rather leave, this is probably the best opportunity to do so at this time.
Congratulations. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much. He spoke highly of you.
You deserve it. You deserve more.
All right, that's put in the
Thank you so much. Thank you. Dr. Kosher, thank you for coming. This is my husband, Tom.
Tom, nice to meet you.
Principal. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. You're so kind.
You're very welcome.
Beautiful.
You're very welcome. Thankful to have you as member. Do you mind if we get a picture together? Would you mind taking our picture?
No, not at all.
Okay.
You never good at it, but
no, just be totally fine.
Yep. Ready?
All right. As they exit out, I'll call up to the stage Paul Coe, Dr. Paul Coe, and Dr. Marius Pettiford to recognize 3 additional employees as they're coming. I think Superintendent Moore announced a couple of meetings ago the trifecta that we had in registering the North Carolina School Psychologist of the Year, the School Counseling Director of the Year, and the School Counselor of the Year. So we're here from Dr. Coe to recognize those 3 individuals.
Yes, to add to the celebration, good evening, board members and Superintendent Moore. We're here tonight with tremendous pride to celebrate 3 exceptional people who engage and work to support students, families, and staff from the Student Support Services Department. So to honor their work, I want to share a quote from Mr. Rogers. So Dr. Hyde, Ms. Barnes, Ms. Reardon, I hope you're proud of yourself for the times you've said yes when all it meant was extra work for you and was seemingly helpful only to someone else. Those someone else's were our students, families, and staff who needed both the support and care you provided. So thank you all for all you do. And now I will pass it off to our team members who will honor them individually. Heather Lynch Bowling, Director of School Psychology, Krystal Reardon, Director of School Counseling, and Dr. Pettiford, Senior Director of Counseling and Student Services.
It's my privilege to say lots of wonderful things about Dr. Jenny Hyde. Last year, Dr. Jenny Hyde was named Wake County Schools 2018 School Psychologist of the Year. And this year, she was recognized on a statewide scale as the North Carolina School Psychologists Association's 2019 North Carolina Practitioner of the Year. Dr. Hyde is in her 6th year as a school psychologist. She currently serves around 1,600 students between Richland Creek Elementary and North Forest Pines Elementary, and is also an adjunct professor teaching courses in educational, abnormal, and developmental psychology and applied behavior analysis at NC State University. Go Pack. She is co-chair for the PBIS team at one of her elementary schools, is a member of her school's intervention team, and case manages a grade level. At the district level, she is a community resiliency trainer, serves on the district autism team, and is in the district mentorship team where she has provided supervision to practicum students and interns. She also is on our school psychology leadership team as well. She has developed and presented countless in-service presentations on topics related to MTSS, progress monitoring, systematic problem solving, zones of regulation, and the community resiliency model at the school and district levels. Dr. Hyde aims to devise means for students' equitable access to an education. She believes that building relationships with those that she works with is key to eliciting trust and ultimately impacting positive change. She sees her role as a school psychologist as an opportunity to enhance all students' development and education through relationship building, problem solving, collaborating with and supporting stakeholders, evaluating students, developing support plans, creating and conducting PD, counseling, consulting, teaching, supervising, and learning continuously. She has worked as a liaison between her schools and community through connecting students and families with outside services, organized a community pizza party in a local apartment complex, and is working on family engagement strategies through a PBIS scavenger hunt. She truly strives to practice and embody the tenets outlined in our National Association's practice model. We are incredibly lucky to have her on the Wake County team, helping to support children of the Wake County Public School System. Thank you so much for everything that you do.
Good evening. So I'm equally proud to announce that Vanessa Barnes, who is the Dean of Student Services at Millbrook High School, has been named our North Carolina School Counselor of the Year. The North Carolina School Counselor Association selects its winners from applicants across the state, recognizing outstanding school counselors for their professional leadership, their contributions to developing and implementing a comprehensive school counseling program. Ms. Barnes has 25 years of educational experience. She's striving for 50, though, because she wants that video like Ms. Sherry had. 25 years of educational experience working in school counseling for the last 18 years and has been the Dean of Students at Millbrook High School for since 2011. In that role, she collaborates with the school's counseling team, with student support services, and the whole school staff to develop a comprehensive school counseling program, which ultimately benefits all students in the areas of academics, social and emotional support, and career and college readiness. She's also a board member and past president of the North Carolina School Counselor Association, although we know there was no favoritism, and a member of the American School Counselor Association. She was named our Wake County School Counselor of the Year in May of 2019. Millbrook Magnet High School's principal, Dana King, said that one of the main reasons that Ms. Barnes is so deserving of this honor is because she analyzes data to identify where students need additional support, and she continually searches for new and innovative ways to help all students succeed. Ms. King said Ms. Barnes' leadership has been a key factor in improving Millbrook's four-year graduation rate from previously 74.9% to now 91%. Vanessa's driven to ensure that all students have an opportunity to succeed, and she has an unparalleled work ethic to help make that a reality. Her leadership inspires and empowers her colleagues to do their best work. She's an asset to Millbrook High School, to the Wake County Public School System, and to our entire state as she serves as a leader across this state in the counseling profession. I am fortunate and privileged to call Ms. Barnes a colleague and a friend, and her work in our district makes us all better counselors. Vanessa, thank you.
So for someone who loves to shed the spotlight on students, she shies away from the spotlight for herself. But I want to take this opportunity. We are extremely proud in the Counseling and Student Services Department, Student Support Services Department, on Krystal's accomplishments. The North Carolina School Counselor Association has selected our own Director of School Counseling, Krystal Reardon, as the 2019-2020 School Counseling Director of the Year. The purpose of the award is to recognize those individuals who work in a supervisory role and support the counseling profession by their leadership, advocacy for school counselors in their district. These individuals show evidence of leadership, service, which has a positive impact on improving the counseling field and the services offered by those whom they supervise. This also happens to be an award that's not awarded every year. Krystal has worked in education since 1995, starting out as a language arts teacher before becoming a school counselor, dean of students, and eventually the district's director of school counseling. One of her colleagues sums her characteristics up best. Ms. Reardon consistently shows herself to be a dedicated, compassionate, and knowledgeable leader in the Student Services Department. She always puts the interests of students, staff, and parents above her own. She is energetic, engaging, and consistently seeks to implement new and innovative district-wide strategies that strengthen programming and organizational structure, positively impacting school culture and student outcomes. Congratulations to Krystal Reardon, North Carolina School Counseling Director of the Year.
Dr. Hyde, Ms. Barnes, and Ms. Reardon, I feel a little empty-handed, so I'm assuming that somewhere on the state level you got a plaque, a card, a check. Somebody gave you something.
We're still waiting for the check. Feel free to work with Mr. Winters on that.
Well, maybe we could try to work something out there. But on behalf of the board and Wake County, we all are so proud of you. I don't know if that's ever happened, that one district has had all three of those awards in one district. But I think that speaks to tremendously to our Department of Student Services, to the leadership there, and Dr. Crowe and Dr. Pettiford, and of course, Superintendent Moore as well. So thank you for all that you all do every day for our students and making sure that they are well supported and well served, and we know that they are in good hands with the three of you leading our state. So thank you so much. All right, as they prepare to exit, that takes us to public comment. Citizens who signed up to address the board during public comment will be called on in priority order, first for items on the agenda and then for items not on the agenda. Each individual speaker will be allowed 3 minutes for remarks. Specific personnel or student matters are not appropriate for the public comment setting, but may be addressed through applicable WCPSS personnel, the grievance policy, or other applicable policies. Our first speaker tonight is Megan Bulge.
Good evening. I would like you to know that passionate advocates have to be okay with not being popular. However, advocates that have a drive and a purpose to make important changes in a community seek only to serve those that they represent and speak up for. Leaving a footprint in a community is not my motive. Instead, it is to help those that would not otherwise have a voice. My professional role, for those of you that do not know, is to work with nonverbal students, those that have assistive technology needs, or those that cannot access reading or writing as a special ed student, which I believe is a civil right. My goal is to get every child to communicate in whatever way possible, even if they've been discharged by related services or never achieved communication in their entire time in public education. I will find a way to move them forward, and there are many that I have. Well over 100 students in my career that were nonverbal that I have found an access for. So I hope that you're familiar with the North Carolina DMA for LEAs. It's something familiar to those that provide EC and related services to children both publicly and privately. This guide is more than a reimbursement reference to determine the services which LEAs can bill Medicaid. It dictates what schools are accountable for in terms of providing EC services. It is essential that LEAs are familiar with this and that private insurers and those that bill Medicaid outside cannot easily see children for these services if it has been determined by the NCDMA as an educational responsibility. For example, if a child has auditory processing disorders, speech and language delays, a need for assistive technology, dyslexia, dysgraphia, or any type of SLD, the current NCDMA indicates this is your school district's responsibility and North Carolina's authority to evaluate and treat these children. If a child's family seeks a private provider, they will likely have to pay for this out of pocket unless a provider can then wait 90 days or more for payment, and if a certificate of medical necessity is then processed, which is a process. So as I reviewed your forward-thinking plan covered in your work session and you discuss an inclusive environment considering SES status will be the determining factor for your LEA success, I believe you have forgotten that you're responsible for the success of those 20% of students who require specially designed instruction to succeed and would also benefit from an education, one that supports the community needs to imagine being a child, one that supports a child in poverty, one that maybe is from a single-parent income on Medicaid, is not appropriately identified and served in the LEA at all times. Say they even have an IEP, but they have a teacher without credentials or training. Is it okay for a parent to then speak up and expect more from the LEA when it is their only opportunity for these services and they cannot afford to pay a private provider out of pocket? So my HR comment this evening on agenda is that high-quality instruction is a component of IDEA and ESSA, and unfortunately, even in those that you identified tonight as top professionals in their field, I found that some of them had expired licenses on the North Carolina DPI's website. Thank you.
Next up is Fernando Martinez.
Good evening, board members, Mr. Chair Sutton and Superintendent Moore. Fernando Martinez, I work with the Education Justice Alliance and also part of the CEL member, also working in collaboration with many other community members. I'm here to speak on the process of how policy is made. There is no place, is my understanding, for a mother who might be an immigrant mother who works 2 or 3 jobs or doesn't speak the language to actually know what the process of making policy is. I was very disappointed when I learned that the comments that took place in the late meeting in December around the policy 1740 were supposed to have a follow-up, and then suddenly there was a second reading for that particular policy in the last meeting, and we actually checked the agenda on Sunday, and we don't remember seeing in the agenda that the policy 1740 was put for that conversation on a Tuesday. So I don't know if there's any rule, 48 hours rule, or I don't know if there is any process, but my point being, because I have only a minute and a half now, is that I'm inviting you, I'm encouraging you to think about how parents, how those amazing educators that were here today, how other staff have the opportunity to make comments and suggestions about how the policy is made. I'm here for the most part in every single policy meeting, and I do my best to follow the process, but there is no way for people to give feedback before you guys approve the policies. There is no input. And we appreciate the relationship building and being in communication with some of you, but we really would like to encourage you to think about outside the box. Perhaps before you approve the policy, have some kind of 10 days period in which parents can give feedback online, or have another opportunity for people to contribute to the policies, because we appreciate that you dictate the vision and regulations, but for the most part, people don't have any way to make suggestions about policies. So 1740 policy, some of you, which we appreciate, raised the concern about not having a grievance process for parents or students to file complaints when police officers have used their power in the school building. I commit with some of you to go back to other communities and look into Oakland Unified School District and see the policy that they have for people to file complaints against police officers when they have used their power. And I would like to continue this conversation. 10 seconds before I finish, I'm a little disappointed that the meeting was canceled for the end of this month. I don't know the reason, and I'm not judging you. However, I would like to find a way to engage in a conversation about how people can actually contribute to policy making as well, other than you, and in collaboration as a team. Thank you, Mr. Bloomberg. And some of the documents are an example of that, and I will be emailing each of you after this meeting. Thank you.
We did have some conversation about that, and either I, Ms. Kushner, the policy chair, will speak to you after the meeting briefly. Amanda Harrison. Oh, okay. I'll come back.
I'm Amanda Harrison, and I'm from the Triangle Area Dyslexic Advocacy Group. Navigating the legal process to advocate on behalf of your child is difficult and not for the faint of heart. It takes time, energy, and more importantly, money. I hear a lot of talk about equity and education by the school board. However, it's crystal clear to anyone involved in the fight for special education services that the majority of kids who ultimately end up getting intervention at the right time are the ones whose parents fight and advocate for them, or who can afford it. If services are denied by the school, a parent's only alternative is private tutoring, which can cost $40 to $50 per hour. This is costly and out of reach for most people. However, parents are desperate and have to make the decision to get their child help, knowing that early intervention is key, especially with regards to dyslexia, dysgraphia, etc. Parents are being forced to seek out their own private diagnosis when schools refuse to evaluate their children, and this cost is in excess of $1,000, not to mention the need for several appointments, which mean time out of work for a parent. I had no idea of our rights when we first started on our journey. However, I did have a strong sense of justice, and I knew that my son deserved to have the opportunity to be a proficient reader. Surely each student in Wake County should have access to the resources they need to learn and thrive, no matter where they come from or how affluent their parents are. Parents should not have to fight so hard and for so long simply to have their child evaluated for a suspected disability. Everything about my family's story is exactly what's wrong with this system. Our fight took over 2 years before it concluded. Schools are regularly ignoring federal and state policies and are very aware that most parents simply cannot afford to challenge them. They are forcing parents into long, arduous battles for services, and it's not possible for most people. The provisions of IDEA are not being implemented equally across school districts, and a lack of enforcement from the Department of Public Instruction as a state education agency particularly affects low-income and minority communities. This is absolutely wrong. The system is unfair and unbalanced and unfairly weighted against parents, especially those who neither have the time or the ability to attend IEP meetings during school days over and over. Parental advocacy is the main enforcement mechanism of IDEA. However, most parents feel disempowered by the process, and rather than as a respected member of the team. Low-income and minority communities have fewer parents enforcing the provisions of IDEA simply because they cannot afford to do so. This is simply unfair. Advocating for your child is expensive in both time and money. The definition of privilege is a right granted to some, but not to all. This should not apply when simply advocating for your child, and I would encourage you as a a board to examine the procedures that you have in place and the methods that you have allowed to simply become the norm. Thank you.
Declan Crowe.
Chairman Sutton, members of the school board, and Mrs. Superintendent Moore, good evening. My name is Declan Crowe, and I am a senior at Green Hope High School in Cary. I'm here tonight to talk about the issue of senior exemptions and a lack of communication on behalf of many of my fellow students and I. I know that I was exempt from 3 out of the 4 of the exams that I was supposed to take, with the final exam that I must take tomorrow being Civics and Economic Honors. However, the rest of the process has been very unclear to me. For the exam periods that I don't have exams, I do not know if I'm supposed to show up to school or not when I do not have an exam. I've heard from school staffs themselves that attendance is being taken, so I'm not sure as to if my absences will become excused, which will then force me to take the exams that I had previously earned exemptions for. I am aware, based on accounts from my fellow students, that if I did show up to school when I do not have an exam, that the severe lack of planning and policy would leave me lost and unaware of what to do, as I am not allowed to enter the classes which I am not taking exams for. In addition, since I only have an exam for half of a day tomorrow, I don't know if I'm allowed to leave school after the exam period in which I'm taking the Civics and Economics exam. I do indeed drive myself to school, and leaving school once the exam period is ended seems to be the logical step. I come to the school board because I've gone through every channel possible at my school, and I cannot seem to find out this information. I'm asking you, members of the board, and Mrs. Moore, to clarify the policy of absences during exams at this time, as I must plan around the policies for these days in this week. I'm also asking that the policies around exams be laid out more clearly in the future so that we as students are not lost in the dark. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Sexton, are you able to help him? Okay. Yeah, he's got to get home and study. He's got an exam later. Thank you, Mr. Crowe, for that. And we'll also, I guess, find an appropriate place to address that as well to provide some clarity. Carrie Block.
Well, I wish y'all come back out and tell us the answer, too. We're worried about that, too. I continue to keep coming here for only one reason, and I want to go back to the beginning with you. It's been so long. How this all started was my kid was lost in his math classes. We encouraged him to find a solution with his teacher, and when he was unable to receive any math resources to help him learn from, we reached out to help him get these materials. So that we might perform the most basic of litmus tests, if we, the parents, could understand the math materials and concepts being given to our son in class, then so should he. 3.5 years later, we are still unable to receive any such guidance or receive any comprehensive math materials. It is no longer a question anymore of whether or not you as a school system are empathetic and sincerely want to help us get those math resources back into our child's education. The statement that's being made by the actions of Wake County is that you can't. You simply cannot communicate a clear representation of the math content that students need to learn in each of your individual secondary classes. And this is the heart of the problem in its most simple form. We really don't need supplemental material. MBP is the supplement. What we need is math content. And we can blame it on conceptual understanding, NCDPI, or the ambiguity of the vertical progression of integrated math, but it doesn't matter anymore. I don't believe we have earned the right to talk about how you want to teach math until you clearly communicate as a school district what math content you're trying to teach. I feel like we've been decorating a house that's not even built yet. I cringe when I hear that one of the goals of these math classes is to make my child college ready. But a college math course, students would receive a syllabus of the entire progression of that math class on day one. All the testing, dates, projects, the expectations would be laid out for them. They would have access, immediate access to all relevant math resource textbooks. They could instantly see the whole year from beginning to end so that they have something meaningful to contribute when those dynamic class discussions ultimately begin. Our current math classes are in no way, shape, or form making my child college ready. What has changed between you and I in the year 2020 is that after listening to the November 19th SAC meeting, we now know that collectively you are aware of these issues, and you have been for a long time. Pete and I no longer need to waste time explaining the problems to you. I am asking that you read the most valuable pieces of information that I think you have. Your 2017 teacher surveys, your 2018 teacher surveys, and I'm going to beg you to proactively put a survey forth this year anonymously for your teachers so that you can compare if this program is getting better. But I can only afford one copy.
Pete Block.
So I gave a presentation today on a training program that we're rolling out to all our sellers at my office. When we were building this training program, we went out and we did surveys. We solicited from face-to-face interviews. We talked to everybody about what they were looking for. We figured out what was good, what was not working, and then we went back and we asked everybody who gave us that feedback why. Why did you give us that feedback? We rolled out a pilot. We looked to see what was going on. We solicited more feedback as we were going through this program. And we looked at both the good and the critical feedback, and we asked them why. Why are you giving this information? The reason this is important is I'm going to give you an ask. My ask is that you go look up on YouTube Simon Sinek, S-I-N-E-K. He has a TED Talk called Start with the Why. Basically, the real quick version of this is imagine a target. The center of the target is why. The next ring is how. The ring after that is what. Most companies, most leadership organizations start with the what and move towards why. They don't ever get there. They usually stop at how, and then they roll it out and they're done. But the ones who are really effective, the ones who are really good at what they do, start with the why and build it out towards the what. The reason I ask about this is I've been coming here for almost a year now, and almost all of the conversations I have heard have been about how. Not what, not why. If you cannot figure out the why behind why are the students making the comments they are, good and bad, why the teachers are making the comments that they are, good and bad, why the parents are making the comments that they are, good and bad, you can't get to the root of what is working and what is not, and therefore you cannot build a good how and you cannot build a good what. So my ask is to start unpacking the why, because without it we're never going to get to anything other than this endless cycle of us coming in and telling you that you're not doing your jobs and you guys telling us as to what's happening. But in the end, until you get the why, we will never figure out how do we get to that happy medium that we all want, which is what's best for our kids, a program that is actually going to have them college ready. Thank you.
All right, that concludes public comment.
Chair Sutton, I'd move approval of the consent items as listed.
Got a motion and a second to approve our items on consent. All those in favor, show by sign of aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Consent items are approved. Looks like we have any items for action, so I will entertain a motion to go into closed session.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to go into closed session to consider confidential personnel information protected under GS 143-318.11 A1, A3, and A6, and 115C-319 Hunter versus WCPSS IC file number 19-023332, to consult with the Board of Education attorney and preserve attorney-client privilege as provided with GS 143-318.11 A3, and to consider confidential student information protected under GS 115C-402 in the Family Educational and Privacy Rights Act 20 U.S.C. 1232G.
Got a motion and a second to go into closed session for the items just stated. All those in favor show by sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Ayes have it. We now are in closed session.
Did we get an answer for our student? Okay.
He left, but I think, or do we? So I think some of the parents wanted the information as well, if that's available. She can just, okay.